Might be better. I do like it. But sometimes I can turn around or I just check. So I think that's higher. I don't know. That's back door. Stop. Back. Obviously, midnight is nice. Start. Just wait it out. Probably clear it out. Backwards. Yeah, it should be 12 should be counted. Pretty sure it's still doing the tracer. I thought about it. Yeah, they reject here. Like, bug out. Start. So, otherwise, I stay on this. Yeah, it's possible. Yeah. Scrap. So, turn back. Close it. Target. Alright, there's the target.
Sorry about that.
Scaling out everywhere.
Who are you? Oh, dude.
I don't know what this macro wants to do now. So we took out that wigless. Again, we didn't check the 30 looks. So hesitant. Might still push through this. Possibilities. Chill. Shorting it. This might be Brendan's. Clear yes, engineering this for good morning. Here. Got it. Stick out some balls. Squeeze out this office. So like relatively. This is also like yes, makes exactly stop that. For sure. Nice. Yeah, I think anyway. I think TMS that was my target. I think target. Simply because now, let's say we did not get these something else. We did not get these. I think that's it. Well, but because man, there's equal those. Question. Days like this. Yes. Also, small that start. That's like kind of expecting a cut today. Some guy.
With Geico Motorcycle Insurance, you have access to specialists who know your bike like you do. So
I never imagined Mom Talk to blow up like this. But you're opening up yourself and your family.
Let's see if I thought. Oh my gosh.
I don't know about it. pressed on out of here, not. Yeah, we do. First, short play here. Thought about it. Right there. This obviously targeting like a 5 feet yard.
Paradise. Ceramics Platinum Card Goddess here. Membership takes it next level. Hottest restaurant in town? Book with Resi. Event access.
No, it's not top. So far, though. It's very valuable. The tricky because respect. did anything. It's great. Sorry, I'm multitasking. Just gonna wait this out. Say just one trade so far. I'll put it on my radar. Just wait this out. But not too. I'm really gonna find it different. It's possibly. But, yeah, it's due. I think drop as lower as possible. Might be a two-stage delivery, it's very low or higher. I don't know. It's hard to say, man. I mean, we definitely have these equal lows. Definitely have my attention down here below the gap. I can see us sweeping out those lows, claiming the gap, even if it's not all in one day. We'll see. Definitely very good flow. Massive bullish flow, which is yeah, not really one to long on here. Simply for just this rejection. Vice versa. Not big, sure. Push back down, hold midnight, back up, reject here again. I think just range. Let's see. Like that.
Let's say I'm working on a research paper about the future of renewable energy, and I come across a study with findings.
Yeah, dope noise. Very, very possible. Smack the wall here. Still, we got runners with our other down here. That's it. Try to stop it down. Right here. Just slow grind this up. Just keep going. Spin quads. Very nice. Just gonna chill guys. Instead. See the 10-20. Yeah, very fast. Start ranking. Still got It's start to get tricky. So let's see what happens here next morning. Probably trade it to most of it. So, trade it. Probably take it to break. Once we go to F1C, I'm just gonna straight to that. You guys are holding from road. Holding from London. Wait, mine rejoin the one again. Go back. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Right, but so Nice Thanos. Good hold, man. May not take another trade, guys. I think I might just be one and done for Netflix. Here. Yeah, very like with that one receipt where the especially last stage of right now. Yeah, that's probably so. Might see my trade off. Might just be down until the end. See you guys. Don't want to get caught up in some choppy moves here before I see.
I would say WG is
Probably
very
go
directly
Thunder
responsible for
Counts
the success I'm having in the career.
so I'll just be trading
This field
eval
is
now.
constantly growing and changing.
See.
And one of my favorite things about WGU is that they constantly update the curriculum to keep pace with that.
Learn more at wgu.edu.
Dove, Men Plus Care, whole body deal protects you everywhere. Here, when you're there.
Premium. I say good luck. Generally trade this one. Today there's one of them set up today, so that's actually good. But otherwise, maybe I would have gone. So it's something to talk about right now. It's just Brian. So I think we're just gonna keep riding up, guys. So I mean, you know, if you still got long runners, that's great. I mean, otherwise, I just not much to do. So I want to short it. Long is just not all long. This point is not like me. Just wrap it over here. I also just stare at this. Start smack valve out a little bit. Otherwise, yeah, it's $2 million. That's it.
Step into the Avatar universe. Relive the stories of forge your path as a leader and create legendary heroes and meet
Now, this guy, who was previously known as at least in the top 3 most powerful Hoyo shills, has recently had a spiritual awakening, of which I praise dramatically. Ran Online, who I now think is the #1 Genshin content creator on the platform. I genuinely do. I don't think anybody is better for the space than Brand right now, for those who are still actively in the space. So he's killing it right now. And the previous #1 Hoyo show made a video called How This Guy's Gonna Prove Everyone Wrong. And I would love to know, is this sponsored? It's not. All right. So he's talking Wuthering Waves. So I would actually love to know how a Hoyo shill thinks about Wuthering Waves.
When video games launch, they're supposed to be in this almost perfect state. You're meant to be able to load it up, lose yourself for hours upon hours, and have an incredible gaming experience.
Yeah.
But sadly, that's not the case, especially in today's day and age. There's
True.
been countless gacha games released over the past few years, with games like Genshin Impact, where on launch you could.
Yeah, I'll be real. Like, we're supposed to be in the golden age of gacha right now, but like honestly, like so many of them just suck ass. It's kind of insane, right? I think a lot of people are actually falling out of love with video games in general now, or maybe that's just me. Right? I feel like video games have just like lost my interest lately. Wuwa's not one of those. I'm actually playing that for fun offline. Really good for me, just to be able to fucking chill. I've been playing a lot of Mario Kart World, Wuthering Waves. Duet Night Abyss, I played the other day. I fucked with that shit hard. That was a fun fucking gotcha game. But gotcha games like Ethereal Research take too much time. But I look forward to every new Wuwa update. I will be playing Duet Night Abyss on launch. But yeah, I think I for sure now know that PvP gotchas aren't for me. And I wish Brand Online would understand that him going alone into a forest with a bear is only going to end up in him having more tattered clothes. So somebody's got to help with that shit.
Barely even log in or download the game because it was that popular at the start of COVID. But in May 2024, Wuthering Waves had launched. With all the hyping up this game had, people calling it the Genshin Killer. But let's be honest, they were calling every new gacha game the Genshin Killer at that point. People were expecting perfection or close to it. The game had had a couple of betas and people had tried the game, and honestly, it felt really, really good. It was supposed to be the next big thing. A sleek open world gacha game with a fast-paced combat and breathtaking visuals. But what players got was rough. It was really rough.
To be fair, what players got considered rough was if they were playing on a low-end operating system. Now, me, I played Wuthering Waves on launch with a 4080, and it was smooth as butter. I experienced no issues in Wuthering Waves at all, besides a couple of memory leaks. It was fine for like 90% of players. For those 10% getting like once you don't need a 4080 to play it. But it was mainly just like lower end phones that were really fucked up on launch. And that launch was cataclysmic for those players. And we got so much free shit for that.
Upon launch, there was a ton of issues plaguing the game, from people not being able to log in to graphics not showing up properly to frame drops, and the game was unplayable for quite a large portion of the player base. People obviously weren't happy with this. It really did look like the new best thing on the market, and were rightfully excited to play the game. So when you have a product dangled in front of your face, but you can't play it, you're obviously going to find issue. People were expecting a perfectly polished product, and instead they got something that looks like the jumper that I'm wearing now.
Same joke.
People also had issues with the music in the game, saying that it really wasn't anything groundbreaking. It was.
I stand by this. I think Wuthering Waves bass, like like 1.x Wuthering Waves, as like one of the worst soundtracks I've ever heard. Genuinely. I actually, unironically, cannot fucking stand the music of 1.x. I hate it. I have to immediately go to Renacita. Like I have to go to Renacita. Because it's just weird. I would honestly go.
Do you know what's more rare than a double rainbow? Finding a gotcha game that doesn't have
I could change the fucking soundtrack of how bad 1.x soundtracks were. Like, there's like maybe like 2 or 3 good ones, but like the overall like BGM of the world, oh, it's just depressing. It's not fun. It sucks ass. Especially coming after Genshin, where it's like so many of the songs were good. Like I can even hum them to you. Like da 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 da. Like we all know where that's at, right? But then you have Wuthering Waves, where it's like wow, 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 like what were we thinking about? Old Wu Long of Egypt was so good. Yeah, no, absolutely it was. But it's like bro, like the difference in songs is like it's like a retarded EDM DJ made that shit. I don't know why they released it with such bad music, but it is what it is. 2.0 fixed everything that I hate about the game, and now it's my favorite gotcha game.
It was all kind of sounding the same.
You see what I'm saying?
The English voice acting felt robotic, to say the least, especially with this one very famous scene of the female
Yeah,
MC.
yeah. Oh no.
Him go. And if I don't,
Please, shut.
The early game pacing was all over.
I'm so glad Shisha and Yang Yang were removed from the game because they were terrible. Like straight up, the quicker you get to 2.0, the quicker you get to a game that's actually fun. Because Yang Yang and Shisha are dog shit.
Place. The storytelling was incredibly confusing, with terms being thrown at you left and right with little to no explanation. Players were coming into this with Genshin level expectations, but they were leaving feeling like they got a half-baked product, with many players calling the game disappointing or feeling unfinished. And the launch had many people wondering, how did this game drop the ball so hard?
You guys remember when I told everybody that this game was going to be the Final Fantasy 14 gotcha game? You guys remember that? I told y'all it was going to be a rough launch, but with how often the devs listen, which is literally every single patch, it's just gotten better and better and better and better and better and better and better. I've been saying that since day fucking one. You guys remember that shit? Because now, big updates for Wuthering Waves are like, oh, hey, we added this really cool thing that you're going to like. Big updates for Hoyo games are, we fixed the game by removing this part of the game. Don't listen! Oh my god! It's like, oh, dude, people were freaking out for Honkai Star Rail because they have the fucking skip button. But aren't you the guys who said that Honkai Star Rail didn't have a skip button because the story's good? So does that mean the story's bad?
And many even called it another gacha flop. The worst part is, most people could see the potential that this game had underneath all the mess. It really was a game that had the potential to shine if it was given the chance.
Yeah.
Now, from the get-go, Kuro Games, the developers for Wuthering Waves, proved to the community that they were very open to listening to feedback.
Yes, they were.
But that didn't mean the game didn't still keep having problems. Back in the early game, there started to be a lot of translation issues to English, up to the point where even very important weapon descriptions, 5-star weapon descriptions that people were spending money on, were incorrect. This led to players being incredibly frustrated and feeling like they were robbed and scammed because the product that they were paying for wasn't the one that they were receiving. Now, even though Kuro Games did try to listen to this feedback and fix it very, very promptly, it did lead to an incredibly unfortunate series of events. Kuro Games accidentally released over 200 emails from Japanese players who had applied for a refund for this 5-star limited weapon. The reason people were applying for refunds is because the weapon description made it sound like it was going to be a best-in-slot weapon for a certain character, and it really wasn't. At first, Kuro Games basically offered a single pull as an apology for this, which obviously did not go down well in the community when people were spending 60 plus on this weapon.
True.
This was shortly followed by an official statement, which advised the community to contact them by email, but in a bizarre turn of events, Kuro Games accidentally responded but forgot to enable the BCC function, which exposed all sender email data as a result. Now, because of this, people didn't want to submit more emails to the company, of course, for privacy concerns, and then an image started circulating on the internet because people were starting to take up the refund policies with their own providers instead of the game themselves, but it was adding a negative premium currency balance to these accounts, which can end up in them being banned. Now, the legitimacy of those screenshots is questionable. However, refunding directly...
That's another big thing, is that people were dogpiling on Kuro Games. They saw it as a competitive benchmark, and they were making up issues the game didn't have, just because people were in state to believe more issues. Yeah, it's kind of like when a content creator gets like someone throwing some shit at them, all these other people come out of the woodworks to just slap in another piece of shit thing they didn't fucking do, just so that these people can get clout and join the dogpiling. I think dogpilers are just fucking so gay.
From your bank and getting a negative currency balance is a very common practice for gacha games. So this situation really made Kuro Games have to prove themselves, and prove themselves a lot. They had to regain the trust of the player base. Now, here's where the story changes a little bit, because Kuro Games didn't just ignore the feedback, and they didn't even just listen to the feedback. They faced it head on. Within weeks, Kuro Games had re-recorded English voiceover, dialogue was rewritten, story beats were clarified.
you're not going anywhere.
They're both bad. Yeah, it's better, but it's still ass, low-key.
And the studio made it clear that they were listening. Now, obviously, the community wasn't 100% convinced by this point, but me as a player, I was just excited to see that a gacha company was listening to player feedback, especially so quickly. It really showed that they...
You want to know why he's surprised? Because he plays Genshin Impact. where the devs have never listened a single fucking time.
They cared about the game and wanted the players to have a good experience, and they wanted the game to succeed, of course, because like money. Current games wasn't just patching bugs; they were rebuilding trust, and it went a long way with the player base.
Bitch ass nigga. Struck
Willing to
ass.
trade? We'll trade for you and get you a prop firm payout in under 30 days. You don't pay us for anything until you get paid.
Making videos with thumbnails like this saying devs listened, it was a humongous step in the right direction. Now, fast forward to now, a whole year later, and Wuthering Waves is one of the most beloved gacha titles around. The combat
It's nice.
is top tier.
You want to know why this game's nice? Because when something's fucked up with the game, you're just like, oh, they'll fix it. And they'll fix it soon. And that's it. And everything I've ever wanted fixed has been fixed. The only thing that hasn't been changed that I think would be a great benefit of the game would be the tuner system for echoes. That's the only thing they've never fixed for me. And some people like it. I'm just not one of those people.
Yeah, but now it has the heart to back it up in every other aspect of the game. The voice acting is incredible. They went with more English voice actors, and the amount of different accents in the game now really makes the world feel alive.
I'm Lumi, the logistics team's stable captain. Delivery team.
The combat, like I say, is still top tier, absolutely amazing, but there's more forms of endgame to be able to show off your skills. And the music, don't even get me started on the music. The music took a 180, dude. It went from zero to hero. The music that you can hear in the background right now is from Wuthering Waves. And players who once uninstalled are now hooked on the game. New events are engaging, the story actually hits. And the devs continue to deliver transparency and polish. They started to do things to stand out from the crowd and other gacha games as well, like what from the outside might seem like simpler things, but really makes a big impact, like mixing 2D art and 3D art in the animated cutscenes. They've made a lot of incredible changes. Now, the community gave Wuthering Waves a second chance, and it didn't just fix its mistakes. It showed the industry what real redemption art looks like.
True.
And don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean there hasn't been issues since, because there definitely has. There was an issue just a couple of months ago, even, with backlash over censorship. People were very annoyed because a certain clothing item for a character revealed a little bit too much.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Showing Cantarella's pussy lining was fucking insane. The good news is the censorship of Cartethia has been reverted, and she's back to having a thong. So, hail Kuro, thank God.
With Trumpet Kuro to add some shorts to the character. Whether you agree with this or not, it's just a fact that it's a situation that happened. So I guess we gotta let bygones be bygones, man. We gotta do somewhere else, you know? There's still a ton of issues people.
Wait, does he not know that they reverted it? They changed it, and then they reverted it. Yeah, they changed her panties and they changed her bag, so her ass is still hanging out, bro. It's insane. Dude, it's insane. Like, Cantarella's ass is fucking ridiculous when you pull it. It's nuts.
They'll have with Wuthering Waves from the fact that
Right, 2 days ago, it's today. I thought it was 219. Oh, it's today. How much for that? Yeah.
it's not really enough four-star characters. And we're yet to see them really delve into this and fix this issue, but
Now, yeah, the Shorekeeper still don't have her pussy lining. And Scar, there was also the Scar zipper that was taken away. But yeah, Florida Reese's ass is back up full.
I'm hoping that they will, because like I said, they do listen to a lot of feedback. There was a big talking point not long ago because Genshin Impact, one of the most popular, if not the most popular gacha games on the planet right now, finally added a feature that players have been asking for the past 4 to 5 years, which is artifact loadouts. Now, to me, this is one of the most basic features any gacha game.
Well, they got loadouts. They do this thing that Genshin does. They do what Genshin always does, which is they kind of give you what you want, but then they fuck up how to implement it. Yeah, it does not have what we were asked for, which was players get to decide the exact loadout. It lets you optimize what stats you want, but you can't pick the exact loadout that you want. So it's like Genshin loadouts, which means like Timu loadouts.
It should have
Yeah, RNG loadouts.
when you have
Yeah, it's loadouts for their loadouts. Yeah.
so many characters with so many different should have
Yeah, RNG loadouts.
when you have
Yeah, it's loadouts for their loadouts. Yeah.
so many characters with so many different builds.
Yeah.
Wuthering Waves added this first, and I don't know if that's because they're listening to the player base or trying to.
I want to make it very clear. Wuwa is still the only, between Genshin and Wuwa, it's the only game that has true loadouts, which is you pick the ones you want, and then those are put in the game. Yeah, Genshin still has slowdowns.
Get a one step ahead of Genshin, but either way, it's a really good thing to do. Like I said, this game is competition for Genshin and every other guy. Game out there, and this is a very saturated market. You should see the amount of gachas there is.
Isn't Genshin getting true loadouts tomorrow? Oh, he doesn't know. Yeah, no, they don't. They're not getting those. They're getting slowdowns. They're getting slowdowns. Yeah, they don't have real loadouts. There is no way where you put like I want this loadout specifically. It's like you can choose the stats that you want your artifacts to have, and then it'll pick the art.
Nothing. Let's get in the car. Let's go. Come on. Who did? In the frost where the cold winds blow, Carlotta's name is the one they know. Her aim is sharp, her ice runs deep. A queen of battle, she never sleeps. Fuel flakes fall as the bullets ignite. Ice and fire, she's the perfect fight. Her aim is sharp, her ice. In the frost where the cold winds blow, Carlotta's name is the one they know. Her aim is sharp, her ice runs deep. A queen of battle, she never sleeps. Snowflakes fall as the bullets ignite. Ice and fire, she's a perfect fight. Her trigger's steady, her soul's like steel. When Carlotta moves, the enemies kneel. Still in the air with the beats on fire. She's on fire. Through the blizzard, she blazing trails. When Carlotta strikes, she never fails. I'm considering the terms I'm offering. You wouldn't refuse me, would you? Her name slowly. Still remains the case. If we, she's not still it. Her name slowly. Unstoppable force, an icy dream. Starts scatter with every shot. Firearms go, it burns so. A glacial storm in the heat of war. Colada rings forevermore. These tremble, their blood runs cold. She's the story warriors retell bold. Her eyes like glacier, their hearts ablaze. Colada's power will leave you dazed. Till the air beats on. She's on foes admire. Through the blizzard, she's blazing trails. When Colada strikes, she never fails. Unstoppable force, an icy dream, an icy dream. When the frost meets fire, she's the storm they all desire. Bullets blazing, glaciers crash. Collada's name leaves a fiery flash. From the cold she carves a name. The frostfire fumes keep changing the game. She's lost to unstoppable force, an icy dream. Air and harmony. This rain, oh, it's me. She's always green. Frost of short, so tough. I say it was really dancing the snow. It's heavy glow. Feel the chill and storm blue. Storm, storm, no turning game. Crystal ball, it's fine, hold the tech. I'm the queen, better beware. Crystallized, freeze, shattering hearts with icy ease. Dancing in the snow, I dust me. In my storm, shining bright. Oh, here, is the secret show. Frosty blow on the storm. Every step, sparkle a chill, rose and beauty, breaking their will. My gut sings a song sharp and clear. Echoes in the frost, they disappear. Snowflakes fall like my summer crown. In the fire, it's breaking me down. Heart to fire, I'm the only flame. Lost your crystallizing this pale breeze, shattering hearts with icy ease. Dancing in the snow, sleep the light. In my storm, shining bright. Oh, here is the show. Feels people, sorrow through the frost. My aim is true. Crystal shards pierce right through you. Storm of light, just feel the breeze. My storm was shining bright. Here I go, down. Out of queen, it's far too late. I saw the storm. Turn the gate.
Trade your favorite crypto assets at one of the lowest costs on average. Sign up for Robinhood today.
Hello, let me tell you about my new obsession, AFK Journey. AFK Journey is the first strategic card RPG that
Fire to the page. Legs and rising high. Fire like the sky. Fusion, first collide. Chain wave here, no place to hide. Let us see. Free, blazing trails of destiny. Starting, she was something. Shameless name and all things of flame. She's got to be chained with wings of flame. Unstoppable, she'll stake her claim. In the ashes, she's born anew. Every strike is a masterpiece in view. That feels hers, which is what's like. Shane's fury is a fiery tide. And rising high. Blazing game. His name and all wings of she'll stake her claim. Still the energy. Shameless fire sets you free. Blazing feathers cutting through. The fiery wings will carry you. Soaring free, blazing trails of destiny. Sword in hand, she rules the game. Shameless name and wings of flame. She's got the beat, shameless name and wings of flame. Stop, she'll stake her claim. She's made. Shameless name and wings of flame. Is the one they know. Her aim is sharp, her ice runs deep. A queen of battle, she never sleeps. Snowflakes fall as the bullets ignite. Ice and fire, she's the perfect fight. Her trigger steady, her soul's like steel. When Colada moves, the enemy's near. Still in the air with the beats on fire. She's the one familiar. Through the blizzard, she stays and trails. When Colada strikes, she never fails. Still be the cage, that's fine. Queen, she's not still awake. Her name's Chloe. Through walls and times, and leaps, Carlotta, unstoppable force, an icy dream. Start scatter with every shot. Flames glow, it burns so hot. A glacial storm in the heat of war. A lot of winds for more. These kill their dead ones hold. She glory warriors reach so bold. Her eyes like blazers, her heart's ablaze. Her lost power will leave you dead. Admire, it's beautiful, since she plays in France. When a lot of strikes, she never failed. Still punches the case. Dark and sword, can you feel the charge? Dancing in shadows, the destiny stricken large. One touch and it's fire, you're drawn to the light. Step a little closer, you're in for a ride. Sometimes feel the heat now. You can't survive. You think I'm a house and it's not another one. You think that's so speaks. Choice up and fearless, I'm running the show. One look in my eyes and you're caught in the flow. Through the night like a flash in the dark. Just one touch and I'll leave my mark. Feel heating up. Survive. I'm with you, my house and it's not another one. You're into the next, so first free. And I'll start to be. Feelings of watch, just be invitation. You can't speak. Sharp and fearless, I'm running the show. One look in my eyes and you're caught in the flow. Through the night like a flash in the dark. Just one touch and I'll leave my mark. Hold it fast and feel the heat and ice. You can't see the light. Touch out and feel my house or yeah, well, you ain't me. I feel just like lost. It's something you can feel. It's like it'll be. It's see, you can't let you know. It's your thing. Don't go back in my house or the space for a touch. You really Will you grab the Duracell batteries?
Now what's it matter? Batteries are all the same. All the same.
Wow, but serious tides. Heavens. Yes, my friend. Just to show inside a new Balenciaga inside a bottle just to show inside a new Balenciaga. Goddess of victory. eons of time on this vast land, all encapsulated in a home. I am fortunate to have you as my opponent. In the center with the fire shows. Her death is free. So free. She lights up the darkness like stars in the sea. Says she don't just the beauty across every land. Glimmers of the sorry. She goes fire. She's hearts burn. Some fire. Hearts burn. Hearts burn. Some fire. Together the flame. Unity opens us. So the melody reaches the
Satisfaction. Our cats just love great customers.
the crown of winds has been engulfed by the sea. And you want to see this night. So watching. Repent for silence. Furious violence. Stand inside.你就知道的很。
Hello, rovers. Welcome to this video. Grab your coffee and enjoy the video. Like and subscribe is a must. Otherwise, Ling Yang will haunt you.
in the cool of night. The dream draws me near through the birds and forest spin, guiding me back in the states. She told me stop. Steps, but she shakes the ground. How it flows without a sound. She's not here to play it thin. Rising language. That's a pretty nice convertible. I think I'm mistaken.
professional technician. Take pride in maintaining your
Hello guys, as you can see, this is the results of people's choice.
like this, but I've been stuck in my own head about it for weeks now, and I figure if I don't dump it somewhere, I'm going to start slipping up topside. So, yeah, here it is. I'm a commercial diver. Been doing contract work for just over 12 years now, mostly salvage, infrastructure inspections at the border, government contracts, oil rigs, rare mineral exploration, pipeline assessments, all the usual stuff. Not military, not science, just the unglamorous end of deep sea labor. If something breaks, we will fix it. If someone pays enough, we will look. This last job was supposed to be one of the more easy ones. We were operating off a semi-stationary vessel about 200 miles off the coast in an area that's been getting a lot of attention lately because of unusual seismic readings. That's the phrase that they used in the briefings. No mention of anything structural, no mention of anything man-made. But the pay was double my usual rate, and they were flying us out in staggered rotations, like it was some kind of a classified operation. No names on the roster, no direct client, just a subcontractor paying through another subcontractor. NDA thicker than a phone book. Never gone through anything like this in my life. I wasn't the only one weirded out by that. The rest of the dive team, 3 of us in total, had all worked together before. We told it out for what it was, a black budget job. Still, the gear was solid, the dive plan was short, and the hazard pay made it hard to care. This was a bell run from the sound system, not a bounce dive. If you're familiar with the profession, you will be asking, why the fuck are you sat diving for something like this when it would be safer and cheaper using an ROV? Yeah, that's what I'd like to know too. It was one of the first things we brought up. And shit, they even had ROVs on board, but they never sent a single one down. 2 of us asked at separate times. We got 2 different responses. Not exactly a good sign. When my coworker asked, they told him ROVs had already made 2 passes, but the trench was too cluttered. Cable stacks, zero-vis silt pads, acoustic head ends. That's why they send us in the seats. When I asked, they told me that the scans were inconclusive, that the data did not match the topography. We need a human eye on this, I said. Higher up, with flesh and blood down there, whatever that meant. First couple dives were uneventful, long descents, quiet work. We were basically just scanning a tripped wall and mapping anomalies. No tools, no removals, just observation. On paper, we were looking for gas seepage zones and mineral density shifts. The only thing that bugged me early on was how quiet the comms were. Not like dead batteries, just sterile. Normally there's some banter, even minor updates, but the surface crew barely spoke unless it was a command, like they were monitoring for something, like they didn't want to talk, like a deep concentration. For a dive, we go down at 0700. Visibility is shit. Silt clouds like thick snow, and the thermocline was pushing hard that day. My suit's external cam was cutting in and out, but the internal HUD stayed green, so I kept pushing with the other diver. I won't just fall hard. We reached the anomaly shelf, about 800-ish feet, but it may have been slightly more than that. I can't really recall. Our stop to recalibrate the sonar. I drifted a bit further east, maybe 15 meters off of our plotted course. That is when I saw it. I thought it was a rock formation at first, or maybe a collapse from a vent. There was that same swoosh look, like something had flash boiled the seafloor. But then I saw the lines, perfect arcs, angles that didn't make sense for erosion or tectonic fracture. It looked, and I know how this sounds, like part of something that was built down there. Not recent, obviously. It was buried under layers of sediment and calcified growths, and half of it had fused into the surrounding rock. But the geometry was wrong for a natural formation. There were deep, symmetrical gouges, maybe 4 feet wide, with spacing too consistent to be chance. The outer ridges had faint, rich channels, like some kind of old cable routing or fluid exchange system. It looked used, industrial. I didn't radio it in right away, just marked the coordinates and circled back toward R. He was maybe 20 meters off, but facing the opposite direction, hovering mid-water like it stopped moving entirely. No fitting, no arm motion, just frozen. I pinged twice. Nothing. Then his comms lit up, but it wasn't speech. It was a low, wideband tone, like radio static, mixed with an old dial-up modem. It was loud, Even with my gain turned down, then just silence. Surface calls me immediately after that, tells me to go to the bell now. Not a suggestion, not protocol, a full recall. They didn't even wait for me to respond before they repeated the command. Voice more urgent the second time. I start up. Arm still just floating there. I grabbed his harness ring and tried to tell him, but he was butt, dead white. No bubbles from his exhaust port. I told Surface he was unresponsive, and that's when they said something I will never forget. It's the only time I've ever heard something like that in my entire career. Leave him, return to the bell. Not, what's his condition? Not, do what you can, just leave him. So I did. I had to. R wasn't responding to bell signals either. No movement, no pressure changes in his line. There was nothing I could do on my own. I kicked back along the tether toward the last tether point and signaled development. Then looked back. Didn't want to. I have never felt good about it. They hauled me in like I've been exposed to radiation. Full decon, full quarantine. 2-day isolation in a medbay that was way more advanced than anything we'd seen on other dive support vessels. No one explained anything. Just withdrawals, scans, and silence. 2 days later, they said I was clear. No mention of R, no memorial, no body. Just that he had suffered a systems failure during the operation. That was all he said. I stayed on contract for another week, mostly surface time. Didn't dive again. Noticed they replaced the entire support team the day after I was released. New faces, new accents. No one spoke to me unless they had to. I still had the coordinates from that anomaly logged in my backup dive log. I checked them once before we left the area. Satellite maps list the zone as unmapped trench sector. That's it. No bathymetric data. No sonar overlays. Nothing. It's like that whole entire section of data was wiped from every bit of it. Since returning, I've tried to make sense of it. I've shown crop screenshots to a few marine engineers I trust. Just the structure lines, nothing identifiable. They all said the same thing. Looks manufactured, but none of them replace it. Here is the part that really messes with me up. Last week, I was doing a cleanup on my rigs equipment files. I found an audio snippet I didn't remember recording. 17 seconds long, timestamped from the day of the last dive. As far as comms, the distortion is there, but right at the end of the clip, buried under layers of noise, I swear to God, I can hear him say something. His voice is thin, like he's far away, but it's there. He just says, they're not machines. I died, but I don't mind dying. My father did die. He came back with a story. He was swimming in the darkness. He was dimly aware of someone next to him. Not exactly unusual. There were several people in the water, but he was concerned about why the light might be on. Without that light, there was nothing to see. It's just an empty void. Before he could shine his light on this person, he became aware of the fact that his dive partner was on his other side. So either whoever was next to him was separated from their dive buddy, or it wasn't a person at all. The need to know caused him to shine his light tentatively at the shape, revealing a massive barracuda keeping pace with him. Rightfully surprised, he moved back a bit, but the creature just kept near him. Dredging up some boldness, he moved towards it, and it moved away from him, always keeping that comfortable distance between them. After a moment, my father continued on, trying to put the thought of the predator out of his mind as he continued to shadow him. It didn't take long for the beam of his flashlight to illuminate a fish, and then, in an explosion of speed and bubbles, the barracuda shot out of the darkness and intercepted the fish, retreating back into the inky waters, only to return to my father's side a few heartbeats later. This kept up for as long as the dive did. The barracuda stayed close, using my father's light for hunting. When at last the time came to return to the boat, the barracuda remained by his side until they reached the coast. Not me, but an acquaintance who used to be an industrial diver. There was a ferry accident in the Philippines, and it turned out that the Del Monte company was illegally using the ferry to ship massive barrels of a banned pesticide to some of their plantations there. Thus, it had the potential to be a toxic disaster with those barrels of poison trapped in there. and they could not recover the bodies of the dead until the pesticides were removed. My friend's company in the US was hired to retrieve the barrels with the corpses still underwater in the ferry. By this point, the bodies had floated to the top of the upside down hull, and their hair was hanging down, swaying in the currents. The divers did successfully remove the hazard, after which the bodies could finally be removed. However, the event caused my friend so much trauma that he left the field altogether and now works on land. Can you just imagine? I was diving out of the pond, much more advanced divers than me. They were cave divers. I was just in advanced certification at the time. I am leading the dive as to get used to pressures and responsibilities of heading the procession. They are mentoring me. It is a Texas puddle, visibility 10 feet max, not too deep, maybe 25 feet. The known visibility makes it impossible to navigate by compass. We follow a line, string, put by other divers. These lines go from one sunken item to another. So, I know I'm about to hit a small sunken boat. Don't remember which one. There were a few similar in the same state of decay. So, I am first in the group. I get to the boat. See someone's black arm sticking out of the inner quarters. Curious thing is, yeah, for everything else. Someone new. Not like I just found on the bottom. Hard to see. Too much muck in the water. So, I catch my food.
I was wondering where you were.
Like it
It's
is
like,
actually
damn,
be having.
he's pushing the time.
So I guess Summer didn't buy like a little. No, she did get a Labubu.
Okay.
I guess they're not in yet, but she's like a different like themed one. So I don't think she has like a regular. So it's gonna show her mine, and it's the most neutral one. So I don't give a fuck about it.
You're not giving it to her.
I'm bringing it to work. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
but yeah, we were looking at outfits yesterday.
Oh, that's cute. Oh, Papa, I have to shave you before I go to New York. You're so handsome, but I see so much. Oh, Jesus Christ! What are you?
What?
What was that? What was that? He was just chilling, waking up, and then all of a sudden looks through the fucking chair, and then the hole in the back of the chair, he goes, and he starts slapping shit. And I'm like, oh my God, is it a bug? I think he was just showing me his force. He's like, I'll beat your ass.
I've only been beating like what?
Oh, his food's hard. Yeah, he's just swallowing it.
Oh shit.
He bites it, pulls it out, and then go. You can put water in it, leave it up here, and I'll put it down when it's soaked, if you want. I've been waiting for this trade to come to me for hour and 15 minutes. What, honey? If you can, yeah, I would.
That means we work. I'll go there and then to the grocery store.
Okay. Do you want the card?
Yeah.
My wallet should be. Oh, it's right here.
It's rough without you tonight.
What, baby?
It's gonna be rough without you tonight.
I'll be here. Oh yeah, because you won't get your work break.
Be outside.
Well, I guess if no, because by the time you get off work and drop the towels and go to the store, you're gonna be like rushing back.
Dogs and she's here.
Yeah, all up into business. She was really good yesterday though.
Everything instant.
Yeah, we got to tell your mom uh this like routine we got because it would benefit her life greatly. Like, hey mom, like literally just lie. Like, hey, we you know all the we just tell her, she thinks she's in a facility and all the doors lock at 9. Unless you need to go to the bathroom. And you'd think that wouldn't work because she would be like, okay, well, why if I have to go to the bathroom does Vicky magically show up? But she never realizes it. So
Yesterday she had a couple times where she's like, "You're Brittany." I was like, "Yeah." It's like, "No."
yeah, when you come over, she thinks like you're visiting her, which is cute. She's like, oh, Brittany's coming? I'm like, yeah. I haven't taken Adderall yet. I'm gonna wait till like I go down there and then take it. You've eaten 30 milligrams and it hasn't kicked in.
Usually it's like 40 or 50.
It's insane.
It's been so tired that it's like obviously a supplement.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you want me to carry those out for you?
Okay.
Oh,
Was he good last night?
wow. Yeah, it was actually really cute. So he was laying on the chair, and I was like, let me see if I can convince him. So I picked him up. So I picked him up, and I set him right here, like up against the thing. I laid right here, and I literally fell asleep petting him. I mean, when I woke up, he was gone, but I literally fell asleep petting him.
Listen, like documentary. Even at work.
over in and feel the leg hanging out. And the cat, and I see the second leg now. Fuck with a big letter S, right? I turn around and says into the group. Everyone has a sour face. No one is but due to the rule that if one stands up, whoever's in the group must avoid no questions. They wanted me to explain the sign's why. But what is a diver's sign for a diver? I feel like I rushed toward the surface, even though trying to stay calm and get calm. So we are on the lake surface. Came breathing up. So I told him there was a body down there. I see rolling eyes from everyone. They am serious. Right? So I described in detail what I saw. We go down. I don't leave anymore. We make a group search pattern for the line. Let's relocate that. We don't know who's at the forward or backward. And there are knows in which the box is. How far we fit that will pop in out of the surface. Well, we find all guns, which we'll find in the original one, of course. So our customary leader goes into the cabin. Oh my god. What? I'd say he was rather courageous at this point. Went right in. Then he emerges from the cloud of muck and tells us all to surface. So, gluing information together from what we learned later on, turns out the police were some upbeat and sick had a body recovery training and was skin like the same day. When they went for lunch, they stuffed their fully dressed anatomically correct rubber doll in one of the single boats for a few hours for safekeeping. Well, I died a little. Then. So PC Alliance, the owner of Accessible Stars, said it did not know it was carrying 4 boxes of endosulfan, a pesticide bound for a pineapple plantation in the south of the country. We were not aware of any pesticide on board, said Ryan Dow. The company has ended up. Hundreds of corpses are believed trapped in the 7-story
Almost.
Stars, which ran aground and flipped over with 865 passengers on board during the typhoon mentioned setting up.
That's a pretty nice convertible. Steak.
We were called the divers for the gun. They will wait for advice from the
Here's season 2, episode 40. Get off my lawn. Anna Kasparian was disparaging me. And it's always fun when someone disparages you because you realize most journalists today, because it's something you know a lot about you. So when they do your hometown band that you grew up listening to, or a company you work for, or you yourself, you just go through all the mistakes and you go, wow, is this how you talk to others? Because you don't know what you're talking about. Anna Kasparian has a show called No Filter that no people watch. And she's got some videos. Her videos used to make, I mean, views. But she's a liberal, and I tried to get her on my show. Or I should say, the company that I hired to get guests tried to get her on my show. I subcontract that out. I don't have time to sit there trying to get the squirrels to nibble. But it really is like that with liberal guests. Folks, in case you don't know, if you have a show that is not 1,000% Antifa, you cannot get liberal guests. Everyone pays liberal guests if you're conservative. Tucker Carlson, you ever wonder how he gets all those libs and Antifa guys on his show? He has to pay them money. They don't like going on right wing shows because they tend to lose. Now, I've so far managed to find the only liberals with balls like Cornel West and Mark Lamont Hill and Dr. Michael Dyson. But it takes work and it often takes money. So I gave these guys a budget. I said, go get me some liberal guests. Getting conservative guests will be a cinch. They don't even, the conservatives never even ask who they're on with. They're like, I'll debate anyone. I'll talk to anyone. But the left doesn't like free speech. They don't like the show in general because they can't control the narrative. My problem with America today is it's polarized. And the left is managing to separate us. Canceling Thanksgiving, we're canceling Christmas. So the impetus for this show is let's get the left and the right in a room and see what they disagree on. They often agree. Milo and Dr. West both want reparations. Malkin and Dyson fought about that. They didn't get along when it came to that subject. And often I will lose. Like Mark Lamont Hill got me on my definition of racism, where I use an analogy to describe the Irish. And then when he used Islam, I said, Islam isn't a race. And he goes, oh, but Irish is a race? Ta-da, you got me. That's healthy. But in this epoch of mental obesity, the left doesn't want to discuss. And they hide their cowardice by saying, I don't want to give Nazism a platform. I already got a platform, babe. And by the way, the reason I'm doing this video is because these people just made me, I think, about $100,000. Right? I got 1,000 new subscribers since this controversy came up. And the controversy is David Pakman, Sam Cedar, and Anna Kasparian saying they're not coming on my show, even though David and Sam said yes. And Anna, I believe she said yes also. I can't really remember. These guys relayed to me and they go, I think we got blah, blah, blah. And we have many more liberals coming on the show, but I'm not going to tell you their names because they will get harassed by their fun-loving friends on the left. So here are three people that my interview guest, whatever company, tried to get, and they are spilling all the beans. Spill.
Today, I received an offer to appear as a guest on Gavin McInnes's new show. The offer was different from other interview requests for two reasons. First, it came from someone I have absolutely no respect for and would never want to be associated with. I'll explain.
You're not associated with me if you're on my show. Like, is Richard Spencer associated with CNN because he went on CNN? David Duke was in CNN. Are they now associated with CNN? I don't understand. You're just debating someone. It doesn't matter that I happen to be the one hosting the debate. Why is that wrong?
Do you know what's more rare than a double rainbow? Finding a gotcha game that doesn't have a 50-50 system. You just get the character you want.
Why in just a minute. Second, he offered me $7,000 plus paid travel and accommodations to New York. I rejected the request as much as I could use the money, and I could use the money. I'm way too savvy to.
I noticed David Pakman talked like this too. Hi, this is Anthony Cumia. And hello, I am Gavin McInnes. Together, we're Compound Censored. And we'd like you to subscribe to our network that has more fantastic content you could shake a stick at. Use this promo code for a one-time super offer. Do it. It's uncensored and oh so entertaining. About how excited they were to see such a large bill and how freaked out they were. Well, there's money in this, I guess. I mean, you guys made me $100,000 by talking about it with free advertising. Thank you.
Help a despicable human being launder his image and reputation for promoting violence. So let me contextualize this. You've heard me talk about the
entire thesis of this video is that I'm trying to launder my image. I've got my own platform here. I'm not reaching out to anyone. I don't have a publicist trying to get me on shows. I've got my show. So this whole hypothesis that I'm out to launder my image is patently false. The reason that I was getting these guests on is, in a sense, to launder their image. When I say they, I don't mean the individuals. I mean the left in general. I'm saying, let's get you guys talking and let's humanize both sides. And it's got nothing to do with me. I'm done. I'm fine. I'm set for life. I'm not out there trying to hustle and get talked about. I got 3 kids, plenty of money. I don't understand what you're talking about. You're the one who needs to get out there. You got 1,000 views per video. I have 350,000 subscribers on YouTube. Anyway, go ahead.
nature of the right wing grift. Donald Trump's demagogic nature emboldened the worst elements of the right wing to unleash their worst characteristics for attention and profit seeking.
This is also a common thing, right? The zombies, the white supremacist zombies were lying under the soil. Then Trump said, Nosferatu Sundio Slatskados. Said a chant and they all went, said, I can finally do this. And then they always say they're doing it for money. I've always made money, but it's despite being an outspoken and controversial person, obviously. Like losing my ad agency, getting fired from the Blaze, getting ousted from Vice. Was that all a ploy to make money? It's not profitable to not toe the liberal line. You don't get on shows. You don't get invited to things. Look at Alan Dershowitz. He dared to defend Trump and had his finances flushed down the toilet. Like I can't go on a tour of Australia because of all this controversy. So it's not lucrative to support Trump. That's a real hole in your pocket. You know what just popped into my head? David, Sam, and Anna, well, mostly David and Sam, brought me 1,000 subscribers. We just broke 10,000. This one controversy, David and Sam made me 10% of my annual gross. Am I doing the math right? We have 10,000. They brought me 1,000. Yeah. This video is a thank you to them. And I'm sure Anna's going to add another few hundred, which when you multiply by 100 is thousands.
McGinnis falls under this new wave of deplorable shock jocks.
That's
McGinnis started the so-called Proud Boys, where he publicly...
How are we so called? Is she saying they're called the Proud Boys, but they're either not proud or not boys? That's what the group is called. The so-called Trinitarios. They're not really the Trinitarios. Go ahead.
Encouraged violence, spewed misogynistic rhetoric, and viciously attacked powerless and
The first two are true. I did encourage violence, but in the context of self-defense. I said, when we get attacked, we need to start fighting back. We're letting people be decrepit us. And if you can recall, this is during the 2016 election where people with MAGA hats were getting bottled in the face, were getting violently attacked all over the country, and they were sitting there and taking it. And I was saying, don't just take it. Now, this part of viciously attacked power, and by the way, why does this have subtitles? What is the point of this? I don't understand. You can click subtitles on YouTube, can't you? Why is our subtitles basically 50% of the visuals here? But yeah, when did we viciously attack powerless and disenfranchised groups of people? You mean like handicapped people? I said, let's go out and kill some cripples. Or like albinos? Who are the disenfranchised people I was attacking? But yes, it definitely, by her definition of misogyny, I did say women would be happier at home. That's considered misogynist rhetoric. And did she say misogynistic, by the way, in the previous thing? Hate that word. Anyway, and as far as encouraging violence, you got to put it into context, babe. But anyway, go ahead.
Struggling to trade? We'll trade for you and get you a prop firm payout in under 30 days.
Disenfranchised groups of people. Their rallying cry is what they call Western chauvinism.
Look at this, by the way. Listen, look, just stop. They're talking about how deadly this group is, and they're showing a bunch of guys. This division of Proud Boys, by the way, call themselves the Margarita Boys. And they don't wear Fred Perry's, they wear Hawaiian shirts. And they say, I refuse to apologize for having a margarita or something like that, for ordering mixed drinks. I forget their mantra, but and they're singing Proud of Your Boy from Aladdin. Is it conceivable that there is an element of humor to this group, and they are not the scary looming threat? They're making them out to be like, you might want to check your video before you release it. I'm probably you can find some scary video of a punch or something. Not proud of your boy with Hawaiian shirts. Ooh, I'm scared these guys are going to drink all my margaritas. Salt. Were the Margarita Boys here?
Is Gavin McGinnis known for what some call incendiary claims,
Yes.
like these from his Rebel Media show?
Be dubious of Muslims. If you see something, say, pause. 1 in 4 American Muslim men think suicide bomb between the ages of 18 and 24 think suicide bombing is sometimes or often justified. That is a wildly disproportionate number for this small group. So you should be aware of that statistic. And when you see a Muslim person discussing something that sounds terroristic, It's not as bad as misogynist. It's a real word. You should be a little more dubious. Say there's an Amish guy and a Muslim guy. Who is more likely to commit terror? Remember, what's his name? Juan Williams got fired from NPR because he said he feels uncomfortable when he sees Muslims praying in the gate of his airplane, like waiting at the gate, and he sees them all wearing Muslim gear and praying. He says it makes me uncomfortable. Fired. Fired for what? Being savvy? Anyway, go ahead. The data says that women have become less happy since feminism. I could show you the study. I blame them being ripped out of the kitchen. Yeah, that's my opinion. What's so scary about my opinion, by the way? I think they'd be happier at home. I will not appear in your show. And by the way, point number 652. My show is just you, a liberal, talking to a conservative. I'm just the bartender sitting in the background. So if we're so evil and so useless, why won't you talk to us? Why won't you destroy our ideas? Because they can't survive in the marketplace of ideas. They cannot win. They know they'll lose. So they say, I'm not going to step in the ring with him because it gives his boxing gloves hate juice. That's why. It's not because I'm scared to fight. That's a metaphor. Relax.
In the 2 years since the Proud Boys founding, fair or not, violence has seemed to
Just
follow.
violence has seemed to follow. So they'll just go to a restaurant and violence will appear. Now you're showing a riot, by the way. I think is that Berkeley? I'm not sure. But in places like the Pacific Northwest, Antifa are terrorizing people. We just had a guy that almost committed a mass shooting, almost killed 100 people. If that bomb had gone off and there was a crowd there, it would have killed 100 people. So Portland is already incredibly violent. What you're showing here is someone who dared to fight back against people who were terrorists, that were destroying property, that were attacking conservative speakers. So yeah, if they defend Ann Coulter at a talk and there's a kerfuffle as Antifa try to pepper spray her like they pepper sprayed me, is that violence seeming to follow? At NYU, when I was pepper sprayed and Proud Boys fought back a bit against the Antifa mobs who were trying to kill me, is that violence following us everywhere we go? Yeah, I guess. Violence follows Proud Boys because Antifa follow Proud Boys. Here's the thing. Proud Boys don't go to their things. Antifa comes to our things. Is that one little detail alone not proof that the violence is on the other side? Portland, Seattle, and then pause. And here, so Portland and Seattle, two Antifa-run towns, as we just saw with that terrorist attack. And then you're showing a talk I did in New York where Antifa ambushed Proud Boys, threw glass bottles of urine at them, and are now facing years in prison for defending themselves. That's an example of a reckless, violent hate group. Nice.
In New York, where after a speech McGinnis gave at the Metropolitan Republican Club, this violent confrontation broke out.
Correct.
This law center labeled the Proud Boys as a hate group.
Pause. The Southern Poverty Law Center is also being sued, and 7,000 people raised a total of $261,000, I believe. So 7,000 people agree with me that I should sue them because they are a hate group. Since I have launched that suit, the founder was fired, the president quit, and the head of legal quit. They are a corrupt and the evil hate group, and they are crumbling after I pushed back at their ridiculous allegations. And why is my suit going forward, and why does my suit have so much support if their criticism is valid? Shouldn't it just be thrown out? Explain this to me, please.
Jeffy is called the heartbeat of America. Like the people who keep this country moving. For them, America's most.
And when comedy video editor Vic Berger put out compilation
Comedy video editor. This sounds like a reliable editor.
showing how often McGinnis incited physical violence, the group actually retaliated by sending members to Berger's home as an act of intimidation. According to the Huffington Post, a tipster sent Berger an internal document within.
I don't want this no more. This is fake polo. This is fake polo. This is fake. My fault, but you can return these is fake. These are fake polos. These are fake polos. I don't want to wear them. These damn artists. Man, from the top. That's about my son. You better reach out. I'll piss everybody off. I'm letting my son shit. I lost my motherfucking son. Fuck you expect. Yes. I'm mad at the body. I fuck with you though. You bought the US. Oh no, you bought the Fiji polo. I ain't gonna lie. Fiji polo. You tried the game. This polo assassin. I don't want this no more. This is fake polo. This is fake polo. This is fake. My fault, but you can return these is fake. These are fake polos. These are fake polos. I don't want to wear them.
Why the choir on stage with the Poet Society leading them? It's like it's
I'm gonna take them out that.
Network, which called on all members to find Berger's personal information and threaten him. The message specifically read, quote, "Let's get the social media profile."
This is what Antifa does on a daily basis. They dox people. So Proud Boys apparently said we should dox them back. They also come to people's homes. The guy who organized that pro Constitution rally in Philly got a brick thrown through his window. So these guys, and I don't have a case, these guys said, let's go to his house. And this was after, by the way, not the video that Vic Berger made that she's talking about, but after Vic Berger doxed a Night for Freedom and almost had a man killed by Antifa. So he got doxed after doxing. That's the way these things work, unfortunately.
Phone numbers and addresses for their bosses, mothers, fathers, boyfriends, sisters.
I have a list that I'll be bringing up in court of 35 Proud Boys who have been fired because they were doxxed by Antifa and the alt-left and people that support the Young Turks bombarded their bosses. Sometimes they were fired not because the boss thought they were part of a hate group, but because they just couldn't take the harassment anymore. They said, you got to get out of here. As Ezra Levant said about me after I was fired from the Blaze, you got a swarm of bees around you, dude. Get away from me. But when you sick bees on people, bees come to you too.
And get to work. Let's show them there are consequences. Soon, a member of the group showed up to Berger's home. Berger told the Huffington Post that, quote, when I answered the door, he seemed nervous, like he wasn't expecting me. It was the middle of the day and my wife was home. He said, are you Vic? Your videos are hurting a lot of people. You're really hurting the Proud Boys. You need to stop making these videos. Berger yelled for his wife to call 911 and reported the guy. Eventually, McGinnis.
For what? Wait a minute. For what? What was the report? I don't advocate going to anyone's house ever. I'm very against doxing. I've been doxed. But this guy, apparently, after Vic Berger was doxing things, getting people almost killed, someone went to his house and said, you should stop doing that. This is an example of this horrific hate group that encourages violence to disenfranchise individuals. And what is the implication she's saying here, too, when he was surprised to see Vic Berger home? Which is just his theory, by the way, that he was going there to beat up his wife? No. And, by the way, Antifa did this to Tucker Carlson. A mob of them went to his house and did terrorize his wife. She had to lock herself in the pantry and call 911 as they vandalized his home, broke in his door and spray painted on his driveway, chanting, no borders, no wall, no USA at all. That's a violent group. This is the worst you got, that someone said, hey, man, you need to stop making this video. It's really hurting people.
Became so toxic that he was fired from the right-wing website The Blaze, and the Proud Boys were deplatformed from social media sites.
True.
Let me just show you what that toxicity really looks like.
Okay, so as Sal is right now. Sal's in the studio, folks. Oh my God. You're wearing a MAGA hat, and some guy with a slightly punk demeanor comes up to you and says, hey, are you Sal or are you pro-Trump? Choke him. Trust your instincts. Don't listen to this minor detail. The DA just subpoenaed all my show. They got a judge's order from Compound Media to get all these tapes. So I think what happened is they had the Vic Berger video, and now they're using this video. Isn't this funny? The guy went to his house and said, you should stop making these videos. You're getting a lot of people in trouble. Now there are 3 men who are facing a long prison term, possibly 14 years. 7 to 14, the numbers they're throwing around. This is for defending themselves in an ambush. And they want to use Vic Berger's video, but they can't because he's a comedy editor who takes things out of context for a living. So the judge's order is to get all of these shows so they can show these clips individually. And the irony is, if you are to show this clip individually, I'm talking about rallies where Antifa comes up and pretends they want to talk, and then they bottle you or spray you in the face. So I'm saying, don't fall for it. If someone seems like they're from the other side of the rally, they're there to choke you, so you should choke them back. And we've seen this happen a million times. Did you see the weapons confiscated in Portland? I think these people are bourgeois and they've never been to one of these things. And they think that it's just me saying, go get him, go get him, go get him. I'm saying, defend yourself, defend yourself. These people are psycho. Like, have they seen the bike law? Have they seen the murders? We talked about this in another show. The people that have been killed by Antifa. That Dutch guy who was against immigration, murdered. Frank Magnets, near dead. And then, of course, there's all the suicides when Antifa realizes that they're going to jail for the stupid terrorism that they were forced to do or brainwashed. Anyway, tangent.
If I do a video where I say, how about we start throwing bricks? Is that legal? Like, you can't call for violence on a specific person, but can you say they're throwing bricks? We should throw bricks. Can you call for violence generally? Because I am. Solves everything.
This also shows how bourgeois they are. Go look up Fighting Solves Everything. It's on every boxing gym, it's on every t-shirt. It's a blue collar saying, but they've never heard it anywhere but from my mouth. So they think that I'm saying, go there, just kill people. Fighting solves everything. Fighting back solves everything. And that's what is implied in the very common and well-known phrase, fighting solves everything. Every boxing gym I've ever been to says it in the wall. And I'm fighting right now, and I'll never stop fighting for free speech.
Violence from the Trump.
Just join a comedy editor's video. And then just pause. This that you just saw, right? We need more violence than I brandish a sword. It's a plastic toy sword that's broken that was from a comedy sketch I did where we lampooned the socialist movement and reenacted an assassination. Same kind of joke with Pinochet and the helicopters that no one on the left gets, and that's why they do that joke. They do the Pinochet joke because it triggers them. They do this because it triggers the left. Do you know what this means? It means I like triggering the left because they're psychos. and sorry, everyone there that when I got to the car, they threw a bottle of piss at the car, which will be coming up in court, and to defend these guys, I mean, and they're screaming fat, just like bloodthirsty screams. I think they were getting paid to get a fight going because they were determined. And so I pull out a plastic sword and I yell, "Otoya Yamaguchi forever!" Making fun of them. The left has lost its sense of humor. This was a very funny moment, believe it or not.
After McGinnis faced some consequences for his actions, he decided to announce his exit from the Proud Boys.
As of today, November 21st, 2008, some consequences. Yeah, just pretty minor consequences like this guy with a black wife and black kids, John, losing his job and facing 14 years in prison for defending himself. Just a few consequences. I had to separate myself from them because they were trying to make out that Proud Boys were a gang, and you can't have a gang without a leader. I was never the leader of the Proud Boys. I was the founder. I like drinking with those guys. But if me saying that I'm not the leader hurts their gang case, then I'm a doing it. That's a pretty big consequence. 10 men arrested, all facing serious prison time. We're down to 3 now. Everyone got away with community service and probation. Now we have 3 facing serious prison time. That's a pretty serious consequence, my dear. Have you ever faced an iota of consequence in your life? Do you know what it's like to be constantly attacked, to be doxxed, to have your children and your wife attacked? No, I don't think you do. And you never will, because you're on the left. You're on the side of the insane mob. Now, I don't want this video to come across as I see all of the left as the alt. I'm talking about the freaks who seem to have polluted much of the left. But again, on my show, I am in a quest to find the sane left. If the metaphor was jihadism, I'd be looking for the moderate Muslims and show that the moderate Muslims, I mean, yeah, the moderate Muslims, the moderate left and the right can discuss things. Antifa stuff, getting these guys thrown in jail, that's not moderate. That's extremism. And these are not small consequences.
This is Buick. Now. Buick. Exceptional by design. Get 0.9% APR and no monthly payments for 90 days on these 2025 Buick models.
I'm officially disassociating myself from the Proud Boys. In all capacities, forever, I quit. I do all of this reluctantly because I still see it as the greatest fraternal organization in the world. Decent. But rumors and lies and terrible journalism isn't it funny that we're in a piece of terrible journalism? As I say, rumors and lies and terrible journalism, as she spreads rumors and lies and does terrible journalism. Made its way to the court system. And the NYC 9. Is this a video for me? I feel like I'm coming across pretty good in this. Proud Boys, arrested after I did a talk here in New York on October 12th, are facing serious charges. I'm told by my legal team and law enforcement that this gesture could help alleviate their sentencing.
I've noticed that a lot of Trump era trash in digital media is doing its best to save whatever's left of their reputations. In other words, they're trying to clean up their images.
Just pause. I'm not trying to clean up shit. I haven't changed my mind about anything. I've always said what I feel, and when people push back on it, I explain it. I still think trans people are mentally ill gays. I'm not going on some apology tour saying, no. Now I think there are multiple genders. I changed. I never said I changed. All I ever said was, you got the story wrong.
One of the ways they seek to do that is by having legitimate people in media or politics go on their shows to launder their dirt-stained past. I wasn't the only person on the left who was offered thousands of dollars to make a guest appearance on McGinnis's show.
Pause. I think the story should be here that liberals are so reluctant to have a discussion that you have to pay them thousands of dollars to come on a show, and they still refuse. And is my image laundered if Anna Kasparian has a debate on my platform? Am I good now? Am I cool with the Anna crowd? I don't think I'll ever be cool with the Anna crowd. And by the way, I've noticed on the comments on Pac-Man and Cedar and her videos, I haven't seen the comments but on Cedars and Pac-Man's. It's all their fans going, why don't you just do it, pussy? Why don't you just take the money and give it to charity if you think the money's so disgusting? And just go there and have a discussion and win the debate. I think they genuinely lost this tattletaling.
Here's Sam Cedar from the Majority Report discussing a similar offer he received.
We were wondering if Sam would accept our invite to be on the show. He did. The show is a panel discussion that will have a conservative and a liberal on every show to discuss current events and politics for about an hour. We can pay for Sam's travel and stay. Plus, pay you to be on the show. What's going on behind the scenes is that they it's going to be $100,000. So it's very different. Guests. And this is not like we don't never make a guest. We have what 1,500 interviews that I've done. We've had like 2 or 3 people ask for money. It's everyone is desperate. Liberals tend to be and so
What's going on, Grandma? All righty, give me 1 second. I'm on my way. I know. I said, give me 1 second. I'm on my way.
Be a liberal fan.
extremely
It's unlocked for you. It's unlocked for you, Grandma. Make sure when you come out that you bring your walker and you shut your door so your kitty doesn't get out. No, that is someone else's. Well, your cat can't come out of the room. Your cat has to stay in your bedroom.
while knowing that there is a conversation about yeah, Gavin thought, hey, here's an idea. David as Jim and pretend to be Alexis who really wanted to see David appear in Gavin.
Yep, just walk down and you'll see it.
Make sure you're make sure you're back. Make sure you're more this is likely he's trying to trick people to redemption. As long as conspiracy theory intimidate cheats disengage be being for image and being that who's been drenched in it's insane. She's a bitch. She's a big woman. And she didn't like the regular basis. This woman has been the victim, I should say, violence again and again and again. This thing is what a bitch. It's true. This is
God damn it. Let me get you in from the water.
You see, look, and get
So when I run, just call me when you're ready.
and do a picture. Try to make it
two different entrances. This.
Used to be like they
Am I heavily underwater? Yep, I am.
Trying to get back to that sense of decency. Treat a lot of I've said stand discussing it right now. There's no it's a it's a he was taught what it is. Something to go ideas. So what they do is inside when they make stories like say they call it shows, there's no open discussion. So they just make up this one way. David was ostracized for being open. Free speech is offensive to the stain. Chechens the West is the you despite it being a good student. Sort of like someone says, let's say the way the Catholics students in Ireland were British twice as as Irish Spain. So successful wit in Ireland is I have managed to make my expected higher every single job I had. And I still managed to was killed.
Okay, I'm coming. And your kitty's back there. But I got to get back to work. Your kitty's back there in your room back there, but I got to get back to work. So let me know if you need anything. What is it?
No, that's not allowed. Yeah. Well, you're just like this. You're sitting like this. Comfortable with that being soda. Well, I. Hey guys. We're gonna get some. We're gonna get some more soda and cookies after work. Well, probably because you just woke up. Spread it out. Do you want this one or this one? Right here, I'll put it on you.
you know, our lives are different. I, you know, I don't know the struggles that he saw. And he was like, you know, you don't know this. All right, I got your blanket all set up, so whenever you're ready to get in, it's all ready for you. Yeah, she's always in your room. Always.
So
Yeah, we'll never let her go. That's why we're so big on, we always have the door shut, so. This morning, this. So you're that's why we always have it shut. There's only one cat that's allowed in here. And yep, you got to throw the, try to find the remote.
so enjoy that clip. Subscribe using this.
Nope, yeah, you just play on this. Let me go try to find a different.
Disappear.
I'll leave pillows or blankets. I'll stand up, I'll look at it. Look at it for you. court shows. Oh, it's the commercials with like, you know, the judge.
It's a day.
Do you like something like Judge Judy or
Really does not.
the new one starting in coming back? Do you like your feet wet? Or you like them like this? You got your soda? Your lady, your caretaker, is going to be here in an hour. You're more like that. You want to watch a different show? Little House. I'll just call her if you need anything. I gotta go back to work. The lady's gonna be here in an hour. She gets here at 11. Just call her and I'll hear it. And if you need anything, and I'll leave work and I'll come back. I don't know, just like you said, you needed to go to the bathroom, I took you to the bathroom, you needed a soda, I got you a soda, you needed your Benson, I take you to bed, you needed your TV, I got your TV, you know, normal stuff. Yeah, yeah, I'm just on the other side of the house. I work from home on the computer. Loud enough, or would you like it loud? You like it? Yes. Let me know if you guys over. the thing right there? Are you talking about the thing you caught into? Yeah. And you just leave it there. You don't have to pick it up or anything. Yeah. So that's how I heard you this morning. It picks it up all the way. I just left. The door was shut. You talked. I came out. If you want, you can, but when you get restricted, you can turn it off. You know.
She's in there, Grandma. She was by your garbage can when I left.
Like in the black bath. Bath.
Yeah, she was by the garbage can.
I see her.
Yeah, she can't get out. She's definitely in there.
But David, I have a question. Did he answer my question?
Gene, if you want to debate me privately, you can go ahead and do that. Right now, you're debating Chris.
Oh, he's trying. He's learning. So you're making the rules, bro. Are you not making the rules?
We
need to agree to your moderation, Danny.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. In this video, we have Dean Responds finally coming out of hiding and responding, which is amazing. For those of you who don't know, me and this other YouTuber called Dean Responds have been going back and forth on the Islamic dilemma. I was arguing why the Islamic dilemma passes, which means that Islam is false, because the Quran is in a dilemma, predicts itself, it is self-incoherent, and therefore doesn't make any sense, and therefore Muhammad can't be a prophet, and therefore it can't be true. But wait, Dean had his comeback, his general theory of Islamic conformity, which I pointed out doesn't help you at all, it actually just helps us, so we're totally fine with that. To which he then went silent. He stopped responding. Now, to be fair, I thought maybe he's got things going on in his life, so I kind of just waited. But then I could see in the live streams that he's been posting lives where he tries to address this with other people, but he's not addressing it with me, which is suspicious, if you ask me. Not only that, but in the last video, he claimed he didn't even want to respond to me. I get it, Dean, it's tough, but sometimes you got to be a man and do what you can do, even if you're going to fail miserably while doing it. Because, you know, if he wants to hide behind all these live streams that have thumbnails of me, but don't actually talk about anything I say, and they're just conversations with other Christians, sure, it doesn't look bad at all, Dean. But then fast forward to today, where I went on testified, my good friend Eric, I went on his live stream. I'll put the link in the description down below. If I don't, please remind me in the comment section. And after being there for about 5-10 minutes or so, surprise, surprise, who do we see? Our good old friend, Baby Dean, and he brought his friend, Leafy. I don't know who Leafy is, but it's his good friend Leafy. Anyway, this was amazing because I actually got the opportunity to voice my issues with his responses face to face, or as face to face as it possibly can be, given that he's in some other country in a different time zone and he never bothered to turn his camera on at any point, but it's fine, good enough. And so begins the epic debate. So I've broken it up into the sections where Dean speaks, the sections where I speak, and the sections where Gadif, the Bush, speaks. So you guys can watch it without having to commit to the 2 or 3 hours that this was in total. The stream was. It was something like that. So what does this friend Leafy do? Straight away, the first critique he has about the Islamic dilemma, it is the Bible. It's the Matthew 23 thing again. The first thing he does, you know, he's got the opportunity to bring anything up, anything with how I look at things historically regarding the 7th century understanding of the Injil and Torah, anything to do with prophecies of Muhammad or anything to do with the definition of Injil Torah or anything to do with. But no. He wants to show I'm a hypocrite because then he saves his life. Remember, Muslims, your faith depends on whether or not I'm a hypocrite, which I find really good. Really, really good. It isn't based on reason or logic or evidences that Allah has given you as signs as they are. No, it's based on whether or not some random blonde guy is being hypocritical. Because if he is, your faith is sound. But if he isn't, your faith is over. Supposedly, according to Leafy and Dean, or according to Baby Dean and the Bush. Let's watch this.
You don't want to get Matthew. You're jump. Well, no, I'm not saying that I'm not willing to talk about it. You're jumping, and so you answer, but I have follow-ups to what you have to say.
Oh, okay, sure, no problem. We'll continue the line of questioning as long as we get back to Matthew 23 later. Is that all right?
Can I ask you a quick question?
I mean,
If
yeah,
you're
have a
correct, if you're correct about Matthew 23, how does it help the average
It
Muslim?
shows that you're a hypocrite.
Okay, how does that help you as a Muslim?
Yeah, it helps me show that you're a hypocrite. That's what it shows.
Okay, so it doesn't actually help you at all in Islamic.
Yeah, it shows the general information position to the same position in Matthew 23. It shows you hypocrisy. So what you purposely do?
Okay, so it shows. Wait, sorry.
You're not about to, not need a tip from you, bro.
If you guys can, both the Bush and Leafy interrupt. They argue with Eric about training and says five straight. They argue with someone who comes later, Dawood, who acts as a moderator. They're not happy with him either, and they argue with me because apparently I'm just talking too much. You know, I'm asking too many questions. It's getting frustrating. They just want to get to the meat of the topic, which is Matthew 23 in a totally different book. So you would say that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John contain the Injil within it, and it's in the red letters. It's in the things that Jesus actually said. It's not in the biographical account that surrounds it, where it talks about Jesus' ministry, what Jesus did, so on and so forth. That position when the Quran itself quotes biographical material that does actually come from Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Yeah, no problem. So does the Quran ever report the biographical material and say this is found in the Injil?
No, but it seems to assume it.
No, that's just an assumption, mate. So every time, do you know how many times the Quran? So I'm going to ask you a question now. Do you know how many times the Quran mentions the contents of the Injil specifically?
So it does in quite a few places.
So how many times do you know?
It depends on whether you consider some things to be from the John accounts or if they come from elsewhere.
No, so you can every time the Quran mentions the contents of the Injil, you find it in Matthew. So do you want me to help you out with the contents? So which verse? Yeah, so when it says this is found in the Injil, this is written in the Injil. So every time it says that, can you give me a couple of verses you have in mind?
Right. So what I'm talking about in particular is, say for example, Surah Al-Yahya. When you get to ayah 7, it talks about Yahya and how Yahya was not a name given ever before. We actually know where that comes from. It comes from the Gospel of Luke. I believe it's Luke chapter 1 verse 2.
Okay, does the Quran ever say that particular point is from the Injil?
Why would you think it's not?
It's the burden of proof is on you. Because what we do have certainty on is from the Injil, is what the Quran and Sunnah says is from the Injil. Everything else is mere speculation. You can say, okay, the contents here mentioned as maybe part of the Injil, but there's 4 times. I'm going to help you out here 4 times. Chapter 9, verse 111. Chapter 48, verse 39. Chapter 5, verse 47. Chapter 7, verse 157. every single time in all of these references, you find parallels within the Gospels. Chapter 9.
Where is the next?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So I guess for me, my issue that I have is if the Quran itself talks about the Torah, quotes from the Torah, and it even gives accounts that the Jews supposedly are familiar with, which very much implies it's from the Torah, and it gives biographical accounts. The Quran seems to be affirming that previous scriptures did indeed include biographical accounts. If that's the case with Torah, why is it not the case with the Injil when the Quran quotes biographical accounts from the Gospel of Luke?
No problem. There's a symmetry breaker between the two. That's right. Because the Torah, as you know, in the Quran, it's used in two senses. The Torah is used in terms of what was given to Musa alayhi salam, and it's used in terms of the general Jewish scriptures. Okay? So this is the position I have on the Torah. In more than that, with the Injil, I don't have that position where there's two types of terms being used here when the Injil is being used. When the Injil is being used, it's what's given to Isa alayhi salam. Isa alayhi salam was not given his own biography, right?
Why?
What was given to oh, so you think it's possible?
Yeah, I'm saying from the there are biographical moments. You do realize that like the Torah contains biographical accounts.
Yeah, but that's the second definition, bro. The second definition, which is the general Jewish scriptures, like described in the
So hang on a second. Wait. You're saying it's not possible. Really?
Okay, is it? Things that are possible. Yeah, yes, it is possible.
It is possible.
But things that so explain. It can't be yes or no. Can't be yes or no. Can't be yes or no. That's
So you
maybe say yes or no.
That's
right. That's not fair. I would.
Is it possible?
You wouldn't let me ask you a yes or no. You wouldn't let me ask you a yes or no.
Let me finish this. Right.
Are you going to be fair?
My whole point is that given the Quran has no problem with biographical accounts in the Torah, it's very clear that it thinks that exists. Why on earth do you randomly decide, okay, but this can't possibly be the case for the Injil, even though the Quran has no problem with the Torah saying that it does? But also the fact that the Quran explicitly quotes the Gospel of Luke accounts when giving information that seems to be related to.
Did it have biographical?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. I'll answer that. So again,
Which are from
sources. Can you give us a second?
I'm just letting you finish.
Yeah. So again, going back to okay, guys, just okay. So the point you just made about the Torah is not analogous. I'm repeating for the second time because when the biographical stuff is mentioned from Moses, we're going to say that's the general Jewish scriptures that's being affirmed. For example, Joshua is writing the ending of Deuteronomy. You guys do not believe Moses is gonna? Do you believe Moses is gonna write his own death? Completely unintuitive.
Do you believe Moses?
Even again, I let you finish, dude. I just let you finish, dude. Let me finish. So the whole point is that the general Jewish scriptures definition is going to be when we talk about Moses' life and his biography. That's going to be that application of the usage of the term Torah. Now, on the Injil, there's no continuation of revelation after again. Can you control yourself? Listen, dude. If you're not going to okay, it seems like you're not allowing me to finish. Let's organize. Let's organize
Probably 80% of.
He talked about what are you talking? Dude, I just let him finish. Are you serious? Fish just had a monologue for
My
5
whole
minutes.
chat is like that you guys
I just like.
Yeah,
Why don't they not understand the appeal to the chat?
we've seen we've seen what makes a chat cheat, so we don't care what makes them do. Right? The chat is relevant.
Okay, so listen, guys.
So in this point, now that Dean has actually joined, he's giving a passionate defense as to why the Injil is only these specific things that he says it is, even though the Quran is obviously copying from Matthew, Mark, and John, as basically pretty much every scholar, including Islamic scholars, acknowledge at this point. Even translators of the Quran like Yusuf Ali have pointed this out in their own Quran translations and footnotes. Gabriel Reynolds is pointing this out in his book, The Quran and the Bible. Stephen Shoemaker points this out. Nikolai Sinai points this out. I could just keep going on with a big list of scholars who are aware of things and have no issue pointing out that the Quran does indeed seem to be appearing to material in Matthew, Mark, and John. But Dean's whole argument is no, I don't like the biographical material because that contradicts Islam. So I'm just going to say it's not the biographical material, even though the Quran quotes it. Even though the Quran quotes it, obviously getting it from it, it's not actually the Injil, even though that's what every Christian at the time would have thought. But hey, no worries, guys. No worries. Dean is spot on the money here. It can't be biographical material because Dean says so. I do get him to admit that it is possible. It is also the biographical material from John as well, which is music to my ears, Dean. Thank you for this. I just undermined all of your argument there by actually granting me that yes, it is indeed possible that that is the Injil, which in turn means that there's no way on earth the Quran can indeed the Torah and the Injil. The Quran doesn't know what the Torah and Injil is in its fullest, or at least whoever wrote it, or the authors who wrote it didn't. So the Quran is an error. Thank you very much, Dean. You've made my day. This is such an amazing. So at this point, the Bush comes out and tries to cover for Dean, and he starts talking about external and internal things. And for some reason, he comes out with this laughable claim. I don't know how he got this, or I don't know why he's never stopped and thought about what he's actually saying. Maybe he just said it as a spur of the moment thing and didn't know what he was doing. But he said, you have an internal and an external critique, and you can't have both. It has to be one or the other. And I remember just being like, why? Why can't I do both? To which he gives a long ramble about what they both are, and then at the end fails to explain why you can't do both. And so Dean just interrupts, and then the conversation moves on to something else. This philosophy boxing.
Wait, trying to make explicitly internal critique, my friend. Internal critique or external critique? It can't be both. How can it be both? Because I'll tell you what. I'll tell you. Because an external critique, brother, is when you don't get me my paradigm, you say there's a contradiction in reality with my paradigm. That's an external critique. For example, if I say, just wait, let me finish, bro. Again, can you guys just read up for a second, bro? So that's an external critique. I'll give you an example. I say that the Genesis account doesn't concord to reality because of scientific facts or whatever. It's unscientific. That's an external critique. That's an external critique, right? Because I'm using scientific facts to disprove your paradigm. So I'm using something outside your paradigm to disprove your paradigm.
Thank you very much.
Let me finish. Yeah, exactly. Now, an internal critique is when you do a reductio ad absurdum, where I grant you your paradigm, I grant you your worldview, and I try and derive a contradiction from it, right? So I say, for example, what you're trying to do in this case is say, I'm going to grant you the Muslim paradigm and say that your Quran confirms something, and at the same time, it contradicts what it's confirming. Therefore, there's some type of contradiction in your worldview. Therefore, Islam is false. That's an internal critique. They can't be both. Either
Yes,
using.
Let me finish. Please explain that.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you. Either you're.
Maybe.
I have one.
He's asking him a question. He just asked.
Then finish what you're saying.
I'm gonna finish.
First, ask him a question.
Let me finish if you didn't interrupt me. So either you're using an external standard to disprove a paradigm, or you're using an internal standard and derive a contradiction from it. You can't both use an external standard and try and derive from a contradiction within the standard. Doesn't make sense.
Why?
Either it's external or internal.
Wait, because why can't I do both?
Okay, so when you say the Quran confirms the Bible, is that an internal contradiction or an external contradiction?
It's both.
How can it be both?
Because we have a historical basis from which to make an external critique, and we have an internal basis from which to make an.
You don't have any.
But you're not doing both at the same time. You're not
don't
doing
understand.
both at the same time.
Guys, let me just explain something to you. When you make naive, like, rush statements, like, hey, there's an internal critique and an external critique, they can never touch. These are some special categories that we define. No, we don't have to play by those rules. We can just make arguments, and whether they draw from an historical account or an internal account by just looking at the Quran, we can do that. We can do that.
Okay, are you doing so? Your one argument is Islamic dilemma. When you make your argument, is that merely an internal critique or an external critique? I think both.
You misunderstood. The Islamic dilemma is not just one argument; it's many arguments.
Whatever argument you want to use on the Quran confirming the Bible, and it doesn't know what
the Islamic dilemma can be just summarized as the fact that the Quran is incoherent, both within itself, its own paradigm, but also with history. It makes claims both historically and within its own text that are incoherent and do not.
Those are two separate claims.
Much evidence.
Yeah, but
Yes,
this is deviating from the substance. We want to do the substance here.
Dean left that bush quick. So now our good friend Dawood, he joins the chat, and he's pretty much silent. He doesn't really add, he doesn't jump in or do anything like that. He's very unbiased, keeps to himself. He just takes the role of someone who's moderating, and he goes phone up, and he gives us all 2 minutes each. Now, Baby Dean and the Bush, they didn't like the fact that it was 2 minutes, and they were arguing about the format of it. I don't understand why. It's the most basic form of play standard there is. But they had a big issue with this. They were picking off, but Finally, we managed to get them to go, and I started off by making the affirmative case for why the Islamic dilemma passes. And how does Dean respond to this? He picks a fight with David. He picks a fight with David. Doesn't like the fact that this is a timed thing, and he wants to change the fight. So, okay. So we're dealing with all this nonsense because Baby Dean and the Bush don't want to address it.
But for now, you asked us what the Injil is. We're giving you the definition. Your definition of the Injil is mere speculation fit onto the
No,
Quran.
mine's the Quranic.
So now, look. Also, so where does the Quran say in the Injil and the points of our
No, I don't need to. What I need to do is I need to establish that.
Where's that from the Quran?
7th century. Is the Injil what the Christians had in the 7th century?
Yes, within what we give to Isa alayhi salam.
No,
Now you even agree.
No,
Now
no,
you
no, no.
now you even agree. Jesus wasn't given his biography.
If you are going to complain about what's going to be kingdom,
Okay, good. Okay.
All right, so I think what we should do, guys, if you guys gonna have any debate, let's give everybody 2 minutes to give their position on it.
1 minute. 1 minute.
No, 2 minutes, because you guys have we're gonna need 2 minutes each, and then you can respond. In the meantime, write down any points that you want to discuss. So Chris,
1 minute.
go. Chris, I'm gonna give you 2 minutes.
Dean,
And after that, they have 2 minutes.
We're not in this minute.
Okay.
This is why we want to.
So Chris, go.
sure, absolutely. Okay, so for my 2 minutes, I'm going to make this case very simply. The Quran is incoherent. The Quran is incoherent because, on the one hand, it affirms the previous scriptures, namely, and Dean, I know you've had trouble with this. I'm not talking about the entire biblical collection, the library of books that is the Bible. I'm talking about the Injil and the Torah specifically. The Quran refers to them over and over again. Surah 3:3, Surah Al-Ma'idah 47, 48, 43, 66, 68, Surah Al-Baqarah 39, 41, 89, 91, so on and so forth, in a positive way. In fact, from Giant University, who are native Arabic speakers, we know that there are 18 verses that explicitly confirm the scriptures that they had. That's 18 times the Quran does this. It's not a minor point, it's actually a major theme in the Quran. The Quran makes it a major point of the fact that the Jews and the Christians are accountable in the 7th century to the covenant that they have with Allah at that time and before it. What does that mean? It means that the Christians and Jews must have a way of understanding what their prophets taught, what message they gave, and being morally accountable to that message. If they don't do this, if they don't hold their prophets, says the Quran, they are liable to hellfire. They are accountable if they don't follow their covenant. It is something binding with them at the time. Their view that the scriptures are being corrupted, in some sense, fundamentally undermines this. It makes the Quran into some sort of joke that doesn't understand what it's trying to do. Instead of making an argument to convince the Jews and Christians to become Muslims by accepting Muhammad and accepting the Quran, it's basically on the one hand trying to say, hey, you should believe in your scriptures. Muhammad is prophesied there. Oh, by the way, you need to hold to your covenant. If you don't, you're going to hellfire. Unfortunately, your scriptures have been lost and you don't have them. So Allah is just evil or ignorant. He's either one of those two. That's my point.
So it's very simple because the Quran, whenever it's affirming the previous scriptures, the Torah and the Injil, of course, it's confirming it. Why? To make the case of the Prophet ﷺ and Islam having continuity with those previous scriptures. Now, you do not require for those scriptures to be fully preserved to make that case. Whenever the Quran says it's confirming what is with you, when it's saying, if you are in doubt, check the previous scriptures, you will see that the Prophet is prophesied, etc. These points in chapter 7, verse 157, for example, that the Prophet is written with them, with the Torah and the Gospel, doesn't require for everything to be preserved within them. And we know this because even today, Muslims make this argument that the Prophet Muhammad, as well as Islam, is prophesied from said texts. So when the Quran is confirming what they have, it is a general confirmation, as Ibn Kathir mentions in Surah Al-Ankabut, verse 46. He says it's a general confirmation under the condition that is not distorted, it does not change, they do not misinterpret their scripture, etc. We affirm these contents that they have within their Torah and the Injil. So the main point I'm just going to say past this is you have the same exact point in Matthew 23 where Jesus confirms the Pharisees' teachings. He confirms the essence of what they're teaching. He doesn't confirm absolutely everything. And the example I gave you within my previous videos within our debate, and yet your only response ever to go back to your video at the very end, you shove it right at the very end of your video, where you say in the 50th minute mark, I believe, you hide it around there because obviously they're not going to watch till the end. You have that response, and basically your response is, I'm inconsistent, you're inconsistent. There we go. So that's Matthew 23 burying the position. And your whole point about confirmation, like I said before, doesn't have to entail an absolute preservation. And my question is going to be, let's say right now is, does the scripture that you're confirming, that you say someone's prophesied in there, does it have to be, I'm going to finish my question, does it have to be fully preserved for you to make the case that someone is located within a scripture, or can it be corrupted?
Yes. Go, here you go.
All right, so Dean, your whole case about this is, well, actually, hang on a second. They can still follow their scriptures, even if they have been corrupted, because it's only in a general sense that they have to follow the Torah and the Injil. The problem that I have with this is, first of all, a general confirmation actually works for us. And this is my whole point I've been trying to make to you in my videos, Dean. A general confirmation would mean the thematic themes are confirmed in large majority by the Quran. You, however, cannot hold to that position because the Quran doesn't do this. The Quran actually contradicts it in many places. For example, is Jesus the Son of God? Is he the Son of God in any sense? Are the Jews the children of God in any sense? Was Jesus crucified? Was Jesus resurrected? How was Jesus baptized by Father, Son, and Holy Spirit? Were they present at his baptism? These are things you can't talk about because these themes contradict the Quran. So saying a general confirmation is going to help you won't help you because a general confirmation still affirms the main points of, in particular, the Injil, which is exactly what we have today, which contradicts the Quran. So general confirmation actually buries you. So does an absolute confirmation. We can hold to either. The only kind of confirmation you can actually hold to is a minority confirmation, which is in effect saying the same thing as you're not confirming it at all. So now what you're in danger of doing is you're actually in danger of contradicting your Quran and going against your Quran because your Quran tells you that it confirms the previous scriptures, the Torah and the Injil, but then according to you, it actually doesn't. It doesn't confirm pretty much most of it. Only small, tiny little bits that you cherry pick without having any actual rational basis to do this, other than the fact that you don't want to investigate your Quran is not a prophet, it's not false. We have this great moment where, as it hits bang on 2 minutes, Dean wants to just cut me off immediately, which is weird because I let him finish his talk when he went over the 2 minutes. But I, baby in the bush, won't pay that much kind. They want to cut me off as soon as they possibly can. This is boring, guys. Just look at how desperate they are to cut me off. Then you just pivoted from this to talk about Matthew 23. I've already explained this for those of you who are watching. Matthew 23 has no relevance on the Islamic dilemma. You can be a Buddhist, an atheist, an agnostic, a Jew, whatever you want to be, and make the Islamic dilemma. So him appealing to Matthew 23 is just...
Go ahead, finish your statement. Go ahead.
I'm just saying Matthew 23 views.
Let me be the one to end things and start the game.
No problem.
That would, and after I was cut off, I was like, yeah, it's fine, I'm pretty much covered. What do they do? Or what does David Ian and the Bush do? They complain with the modernism. They complain with David. David isn't doing it right. David needs to do X, Y, Z, but he isn't, therefore it's bad.
But Dawood, I have a question. Did he answer my question?
See, and if you want to debate me privately,
Why are you trying to debate that?
right now you're debating Chris.
Oh, he's Islamic. So you're making the rules, bro. Are you not making the rules? We're going to your moderation, bro. You're doing the focus as well. Let's get a Muslim mic here.
Please might share my screen just like
I'm just saying Matthew 23 views.
You can answer.
be the one to end things and start the game.
No problem. Did he answer my question? Did he answer my question, though?
Just so I can be heard. Well, Gabe, let me know when you want to start.
Yeah, before I start, he didn't, wait, yes, sir, I was just trying to get him on. So the thing is, yeah, so that would, I want to use my time. Yeah, I want to use my time. Chris, I want Chris to answer your question within the time, because he didn't answer my question. Can someone confirm the scripture and say that someone is prophesied despite the scripture being corrupted? Answer my question, go ahead. You didn't answer the question. I mean, let him answer the question. Yeah, let him answer the
We should just do 2 minutes.
You're not answering my question, dude. You just wasted your 2 minutes to answer my question. 2 minutes. Okay, let me continue. Okay, let me continue. Let me continue. No problem. If you didn't answer my question, everyone just saw you can replay the clip. including the answer to my question. He waffled on about other things. Now, just share my screen, testifies, if you don't mind. Source up here. So, if you could just pull up my screen. Yeah. I think no problem. Yeah, no problem. I'll just read the source. This is no problem. No problem. I'll just read the source. So Gill's exposition of the entire Bible in his commentary says, all therefore whatsoever they bid you observe, this must be restrained to things that were agreeable to the chair of Moses in which they sat, to the law of Moses which they read and explained, to other parts of Scripture and truth in general. For otherwise, many of the glosses introduced to the repugnance for talking about the Pharisees. So Matthew 23 is very, very relevant. Why? Because Gill's exposition of the entire Bible in his commentary is saying many of the Pharisees' traditions are repugnant to the law of Moses, and yet there is a confirmation going on.
Grandma, you all right?
I'm not saying it's irrelevant. It's even relevant to the point of you're trying to say that there's a confirmation going on that cannot be majority, which I just gave you the example. Matthew 23, there's a confirmation going on, and it is a non-majority confirmation. So address the Matthew 23 point, address your exposition's commentary, and address my question. There's two things for you to address. The Matthew 23 commentary, Joe's exposition's commentary I just gave you, where there's not majority confirmation going on, and it's general. And the question I asked you before, and did the scripture, how
Okay, notice what he's just done, ladies and gentlemen. He still wants to pivot to the Bible. This whole debate that he joined completely out of the blue was meant to be answering the Islamic dilemma, but he's not able to do that, and now he's busy talking about Matthew 23. But keep in mind, the Islamic dilemma is a branch of arguments that is applicable to anyone. Anyone can use the Islamic dilemma. It's not just Christians. Yes, I admit a lot of Christians have been working on the Islamic dilemma, but anyone can do it. A Jew can do it, a Buddhist can do it, an atheist can do it. It doesn't matter. So, for example, if I was an atheist, hypothetically, what would Dean's answer to me be? He couldn't bring up Matthew 23. It would have no relevance to me as an atheist if I was. But of course, he doesn't have anywhere to go, so he has to do, in effect, a kind of attack me as a person by mentioning my scripture in a desperate attempt to flip and jump. Now, let's go back to the topic at hand, the Islamic dilemma. Now, since Dean can't answer this properly, we're going to have some fun here. I'm going to show just how bad this really gets for him. Okay, Dean. So, the Injil, as you understand it, is just the words of Jesus, right? But exactly how much can you actually affirm of Jesus' words? Have you actually done the homework for this? I'll tell you anything.
There's someone here.
Exactly what Jesus says that is acceptable from an Islamic paradigm, and how much he says that is not acceptable and is actually contradictory to an Islamic paradigm. Have you done that homework? Because I would expect you to make this debate, to even try and argue that position. I expect you to know that already. I expect you to be able to tell me, hey, Chris, I've done my homework. I can tell you that the majority of what Jesus says is perfectly fine with Islam. Here's the proof. I publish it publicly for everyone to see. But I have a funny feeling you haven't done that. And I have a funny feeling that the majority of things that Jesus says does not work with the Quran. In fact, the majority of Jesus' things contradicts the teachings in your religion. And that is precisely why you're having the difficulty you're having now, Dean, which is why you keep pivoting to Matthew 23. So just to summarize this, Dean can't deal with the fact that I've demonstrated that general confirmation doesn't work. It actually helps us, it helps the people making the Islamic dilemma. He had no real refutation of this at all. He just pivoted to Matthew 23 again and tried to come up with. He just jumped, and it's not like a little jump, it's like getting in a canyon and being fired off into the distance, because it has nothing to do with the Islamic dilemma. And he still can't explain why it does. He just wants to show that I'm being hypocritical. But even if I am being hypocritical, that doesn't change the fact that Islam is finished as a religion. In fact, the irony is, I would actually take that if you offered it me in a straight trade, David Dean Bush. If you said you would accept Islam is false as long as I accept I'm a hypocrite, guess what I'm going to say? Sure. Welcome home. I don't care. I don't care if you want to slander me. It's fine. I'll take the slander if it means you acknowledge that the Islamic dilemma passes and you now have admitted not only to testify to me, to Dawood, who's doing a great job moderating, but to all of your friends, all of the people watching, that you do actually believe the Islamic dilemma passes, but you just want to show them I'm a hypocrite as well. Like I said, you got those two buttons. Chris is a hypocrite. Islamic dilemma passes. I'm happy hitting both if you want me to do them. I've got no problem with that, Dean. But after this, he gave his final 2 minutes, and I was happy to finish that. He didn't say anything meaningful or worthwhile. So after this, Baby Dean and the Bush, they changed the topic to something else. They wanted to have a chat with particular about it. Okay, fine. I stayed around for this, jumped in at a few points. And then Dean said he had to go to sleep. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning for him. Fine, he's going to sleep. He jumps off. Libiano comes on. We then announce that Libiano associates and co-signs on other Muslims who publicly dox Christians, I won't say who, for the whole intent of seeing them hurt, seeing life in danger, family put in danger. He then started to make light of this because, of course, he did. So I decided to call it a day. I said adios, jumped off. Now, to my surprise, Dean is still streaming. He's actually streaming the live stream and continues to do so hours afterwards. So I guess that whole story about you needing to sleep was, I guess, just have the balls to say that you'd rather stop speaking to us and you could just go jump in the bush and hide somewhere. No problem with that. Just don't come up with lies. It doesn't look good. But anyway, I thoroughly enjoyed this. From Baby Dean in the bush, not knowing what an internal and external critique are, and for some reason think it's a beautiful because they don't understand arguments well. The fact that Dean still has no response to my complete destruction of his absolute or general confirmation theory that he has, and just how on edge and sketchy they were being, constantly picking fights with Eric, David, or even me for saying I'm talking too much. I thought this was brilliant. I think it really illustrated that these guys are lost badly, real badly. Dean, if you're watching, or Dean's editors, I'm sorry, I gotta get it right. It's your editors that watch, not Dean. Can you tell Dean that I expect him to have his analysis of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, his homework that I sent him last time, to go through that, find all the verses of Jesus speaking that confirm Islam and do not go against it. I want him to show me this. Because he said in the debate he had done it, which Dean, just heads up, I don't actually believe it, Dean. I think that's just hope. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, just making this video. God bless you all. See you in the take care.
I just took a blue chip. Sir. You know, and I'll tell you right now, the choose a telehealth service that provides access to
Come on.
medication, tablet, and they ship it right to your door. Click on the link, you can get your first month completely free. Stay spicy.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought, if we use $15 bills, you know, it's green, it saves you money. Maybe my face is on it. Back of my head as well. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial here. I have counterfeit.
Oh, how you doing?
Yeah,
Welcome, welcome. Was that guy? Was you listening to that?
yeah.
Was he a red Muslim?
Maybe he's unaware of his creed. I'm assuming he's Ahlu Sunnah wa Jama'ah, but we can make like a definitive case based off of that alone.
Okay. Well, he was saying that Jesus is that Jesus is going to judge and everything, raise the dead.
I think what he's trying to articulate is that when the text of the New Testament uses like the term Jesus, the begotten Son of God, he's trying to put forward that's using in like a metaphorical sense, whatever that sense may be. I'm not aware if he's not here to defend that position.
What about Jesus raising the dead and judging the last hour? You think that that's Islamic?
Islamic, I would say, no.
What about Jesus being the begotten Son in a metaphorical sense? Is that
Yeah, where does the biblical text articulate that he's the only begotten Son of God?
There's John 3:16.
John, what is the Greek word used there for begotten?
Just 1 second, I asked you specifically. Is that Islamic?
Is that Islamic? No,
Yeah.
you can say that he's only begotten Son.
So then you can judge if he was a Muslim.
See, I'd have to understand what he means by this. Again, I'm not here to
What do you mean?
Wasn't okay. Hold on, relax. No, I'm trying to say that given this alone, I'm not going to defeat him off of a conversational line.
No. So somebody can. There is maybe some way, shape, or
Come on, bro.
that Jesus is the begotten Son of God in some sense, the begotten Son of God. Some sense, maybe not literal, but in some metaphorical sense, he's the begotten Son of God, and still be a Muslim. You can't take credit for that.
What I'm trying to articulate is I'm not. My job is not to give like a fatwa on it. I say whoever affirms the literal sense and even the metaphorical sense,
Whoever affirms this, because Quran explicitly texts against this, Quran articulates this request, قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. Right, we agree. I just have a question.
Oh, I had the question for you. I was going to ask if you agree with him that Jesus was a Muslim.
I believe Jesus is a Muslim, not based on the biblical text.
Not based on the biblical text?
No.
In the biblical text, is Jesus a Muslim?
I do not believe the totality of the New Testament would articulate Jesus to be a Muslim.
So when we look at the New Testament as a whole, and we look at the person of Jesus, who's not a Muslim?
No, because it articulates him with Christology, with somewhat high Christology, given in the text.
So you only have Jesus being a Muslim, or this Isa character being a Muslim in the Quran?
Yeah, I see no issue with that.
Cool. So Jesus was not a Muslim historically, it's just a religious claim.
Well, that's presupposing that the New Testament, more particularly the Synoptics and John, are accounting for reliable historical data on the man named Jesus Christ, or Jesus of Nazareth.
What language did he speak?
It's irrelevant.
No, it is relevant.
It's not relevant.
It's very relevant. What language did he speak?
I don't know the language he spoke. I see the relevancy.
Where was he born?
He was born.
Nice. You don't know the language he spoke. You don't know where he was born. How did he pray?
How do you pray? We pray.
No, not you. How did he pray?
How do you pray?
Mm-hmm.
I have no basis given with the data.
Awesome.
Reading a specific knowledge.
So you have nothing about how he prayed, his language, his birth. Who are his disciples?
His disciples, we don't specifically in the Quran. It doesn't mention. I believe it doesn't mention particular names. Based on that, I can't necessarily give you specific names.
So you don't know his disciples. How many disciples did he have?
Disciples of the Quran, I do not recall if they do give a number of how many.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. Okay. It does.
So you don't know his language. You don't know how he prayed. Did he fast?
Say of the Quran.
So you don't know if he fasted. You don't know how he prayed. You don't know the language he spoke. You don't know where he was born. You don't know who his disciples were. You don't know how many disciples he had. Where did he preach?
He preached to the people of Bani Israel.
Where?
Bani Israel. Do you know who the people of Iraq?
Yeah, where were they?
They were. I believe they were located in modern day Palestine.
How do you know that? Where do you get that from?
Based on the maps given, based on like what we know.
Yeah, what is that based on?
I wasn't done yet. If you want to, I'm just gonna keep it honest with you. I didn't come here to discuss that point in particular. I can literally grant to you that this may be the case. Yeah, we do not have any data based on Jesus through other documents, and even the Quran. You're not going to grant the Quran that we do not have any, let's say, relevant documentation contemporary to this man named Jesus Christ. I can grant you that.
So you don't have any historical evidence that Jesus was an actual Muslim. You don't have anything objective.
The Quran.
I'm sorry. The Quran is not evidence. The Quran is making the claim.
The Quran. If you're going to grant to me my paradigm, if we're going to paradigm, we have to look at the paradigm in totality.
No.
Oh yes, we do. What do you mean?
I'm not granting you your paradigm. What I'm granting you is the claim. I know that the Quran makes a claim. I'm not granting it's true. I'm not granting. I don't care about it, how Islam reasons with that. It makes the claim that he's a Muslim, but with no substance. Correct? It's just
This account's dead, probably.
The Quran for whatever reasons you believe the Quran. Right?
Let's go to the 9.
Okay. So you have no. So again, you
Go to the 9.
Objective standard.
Come on.
Historical standard on Jesus being a Muslim or not. It's just a claim you believe.
So like objective standard.
Not even a
for
beat. Yeah, this is
classifying
dead.
people to be Muslims. There would be for a set of sufficient conditions until which we're able to establish such a proposition. You didn't ask for an objective metric by which I'm able to use this. All you asked was
I deserve this.
it was like 20 questions. It was like, okay, what language did he speak? Where did he preach? Etc. Etc. All of which, I'm being honest here. I'm trying to be genuine here. Just mentioning off 20 questions, me not being able to answer it with Quran, does not actually prove your view at all. It just proves that we don't have data.
So they're gonna prove it.
It just proves we don't have any contemporary data.
You don't have any data on Jesus. So if you don't have any data on Jesus, how the hell can you say that he's a Muslim? You have no data.
Right. For instance, in the Quran, again, I'm like, okay. So, if
Listen, in my paradigm, you have to look at it from different perspectives. You do this in religious studies, you do this with any branch of theology. You look at it through the perspective of the interlocutor or another position.
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking? If you mind,